You're going to want to vaccinate for this one. It's Mikey Jayy on KGUP Presents.
Because of you, we're in this mess. Forever you will acquiesce. Don't let them take your mind.
Don't let them take your mind, man.
Don't let them tell you that you are not divine.
Don't let them do it, man.
Oh, that's just faking everything that you have ever seen. And as for flying to the moon, well, they ain't never been. Indeed, my friend, their line scum is there for you to see. Just take some time, look into it, and the truth will set you free. Remember when I told you that there ain't no clue? Well, I just want to say that I told you so. I told you so. I told you so.
So how you doing? I'm Mikey Jayy, and you're watching Season 3 of KGUP Presents, Episode 7. Today we are revisiting a topic that I hold dear to my heart. It's one of the most fascinating discussions of all the conspiracies, and it's one of the most censored and well-hidden topics of our time. The fact that so many people and organizations go out of their way to discredit anyone who talks about flat Earth. It makes me only want to dig deeper and figure out why the powers that be want to hide this subject so much. You might be asking, what topic I'm referring to. Well, I just kind of splurted out, flat Earth. But you might be rolling your eyes and shaking your head as we speak. But, I do the exact same thing. I really resisted it for the longest time. But, honestly, I don't personally know the shape of the Earth. But I do know for sure that we aren't moving. They say we're flying around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour. They say the solar system is moving along orbit of the Milky Way galaxy at a breakneck speeds of 500,000 miles to 827,666,000 miles an hour. That's a mouthful. And that's not all. They also say the Milky Way is flying through infinite space at a whopping 1.3 million miles an hour. I call bullshit. Which leads me... I mean, there's no scientific way to prove this. I mean, zero. And there's no empirical way to test or prove this theory. And that's all it is, a philosophical theory, which leads to our guest today. He's not an expert, but he is a truther, and he's a flat earther, and he spreads his message through music. And around the same time that I began my research and investigation into the actual shape of our world, I stumbled across a bunch of music by music conspiracy guru, and little by little I found myself playing his music more and more, and it grew on me, and I started watching his interviews, and I was like, I gotta have him on. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the very talented, the very woke Alex Michael of Conspiracy Guru, otherwise known as the Flat Earth Man. How's it going, Alex?
Hey man, thanks for having me on, and thanks for the intro. It always makes me smile when I see my own videos. I don't know if that's an arrogant thing or what. I just kind of, I don't know. How can you not like that stuff? Because it's comedic, and it's right. Satirical. And when you're doing that kind of music, it tends to be more shareable because people all of these sort of fakery truths into my videos, and that's the tool that I use to wake people up, because I know once you start opening your eyes to this information, it can change your life. It changed my life. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if it wasn't for these particular conspiracies, particularly the shape of our Earth. I found it fascinating information, and it gave me a burst of creativity. And I have a couple of Flat Earth albums out there, and I would, if you just said that I'd be doing that 5 years ago, I would have said you're off your trolley, mate. But here I am, sort of 4 or 5 years into looking into that particular conspiracy, and like I said, it gave me a huge burst of creativity, and I'm very proud of what I've done, because I know it's moving a lot of minds out there. It won't be able to reach everybody, and a lot of people will just see it on that superficial level. They'll just see me dancing around in a catchy chorus, but my music is not for those people, but because they can get it on that superficial level. But of course, a lot of my followers understand the behind that music, and I truly believe it's moving a lot of minds. Yeah, it's been a hell of a journey.
So I hate to break, up the momentum, but your microphone just keeps cutting out, and I don't know if I don't know if it's
crap.
Like a phantom power thing. Yeah.
How about now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, that sounds better.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to continue if it's going to be a problem, but okay, we'll keep an eye on it. Maybe I'll put the pop shield in front of it, so every time I say a P or a B, it doesn't spike. Let's try that. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be fine. Yeah.
Okay, we can only continue, and just let me know, and I'll see what I can do. If not, we'll have to restart.
All right. Yeah. No worries. So where exactly are you located? I think you mentioned you were in Spain.
Yeah, I've been in Spain for about 6 years now. Originally from the UK, came to Spain on holiday, fell in love with just the landscape and the weather, really. It's a little bit more corrupt here, but I can deal with. I mean, the mask thing was just ridiculous. They're actually releasing the mask mandate tomorrow, but everywhere in public you had to wear a mask, even if you were exercising, which was just ridiculous. I haven't worn one to this point, so there's that. But yeah, the corruption is a lot more rampant here, but it's kind of more tolerable because where I live, I get 320 days of sunshine a year, and the surrounding landscape is just beautiful. So I mean, you can't escape this tyranny. It doesn't matter where you go in the world, you can't escape it. But just Spain was just a nicer place to deal with it, if you like. So yeah, Spain for about 6 years, and I absolutely love it. I certainly wouldn't be going back to the UK. It's just too dark and grey for me. Sorry, people in the UK, but it's true.
Yeah, the UK is just as bad, if not worse. And Canada is that way, and I just don't know how people are just keeping their sanity. I mean, it's just
what is it? Is it a hypnotism? I think it's literal hypnotism. It's like a wizard spell has been cast across the plane,
right.
And only some of us are getting it. But the only reason we're getting it is because we've done a hell of a lot of groundwork to sort of open our eyes to these things. And flat Earth is one of the things that opens your eyes to it. Once you see the flat Earth, once you see the globe deception, it's like the skeleton key to opening up everything else in your mind. And that's why it's such a beautiful thing. And I encourage everybody to look into the globe deception. But yeah, it's a definite spell cast upon humanity. And it's so frustrating when you're trying to wake your loved ones and your nearest and dearest, and they just close off to it. And it's really, really sad. It's almost like a form of hypnotism. They just cannot be snapped out of it because they've been in this hypnotic state for so long. It's tragic, really.
Yeah, it's definitely like a deep sleep, because I remember when the lockdowns first happened and we were watching the news that first week, and you can feel the hypnosis, because you're like, we were in a state of being conscious, and then in this like deep sleep of fear. And I had all this anxiety, and we were living in LA at the time, and I got to this point where I thought they were going to close down the borders and we weren't going to be able to cross the state lines. And so I was like, we need to get out of here. And 3 weeks later we packed up and we were headed to Texas.
Yeah, that's where you are now.
Yeah.
How's it there? What's it like? I mean, how free are you there?
It's kind of half and half. I mean, it depends on where you go. Some place, I mean, you can walk in almost anywhere without a mask, but for the longest time, everybody was just buying into the whole, fear mongering, and, thankfully they're not forcing us to get the vacation. I like to call it the vacation.
As you say, when you tune into the news, and I don't like to do it, but occasionally I find myself watching the odd mainstream news propaganda, and just the cadence of the voice that the news reporters use and the imagery that they use, it's such powerful propaganda. The last thing I watched was a COVID report on a Manchester hospital, and here we are at Manchester Hospital, and we're at the COVID ward, and the doctors and nurses are run off their feet. They are fighting the war against COVID, and they are losing. And it was like this just dramatic. They might as well have put a soundtrack on it, like this real rumbling soundtrack to it. It was like a movie speech.
Right.
God, and it just it gave me shivers, because I know how awful to hear that information, because I know what that's doing. It's dragging people in. It's like a movie. This is what it is. It is a movie. The whole world's a stage, and what we're watching is just Hollywood and propaganda. But it's so convincing. It's disgusting.
Yeah, we haven't watched the news since January And, you know, even before that, we weren't watching it that often, but I just like, I am not turning this on at all because it's just, you know, every 30 seconds, they're just bringing it back up and just instilling that fear. And you just get tired of it. And then, you know, then when the commercials roll, I mean, all these pharmaceutical companies are just advertising.
Absolutely exhausting to look at. I mean, I know a lot of woke people, quote unquote woke people, watch it and they say, well, I'm aware of the propaganda and I'm aware of the mind control. Because I'm aware of it, it won't be having an effect on me. I'm not sure I agree with that, because there's all sorts of stuff going on, probably subliminally, and stuff that you don't know about that's being planted in these movies that I just don't trust anymore. I've got to the point now where I see Netflix as the enemy. I used to be able to take a blue pill at the weekend and chill and watch a movie. Now I'm at the point where I'm like, no, man, because there's just so much subliminal propaganda, and some of that's going in, no matter how woke you are. These people are very clever people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we don't even watch anything that's recent because there's just so many. There's so much subliminal messaging that it's in all the new programming. So anything like after 2018, it's like unwatchable. And you know, movies that I grew up loving, like Star Wars. I mean, I just can't stand it anymore. Like,
yeah, I mean the propaganda and things like. I mean, look how many space movies there are, dude. Everything. I mean, even if you just Google the space movies that are up and coming in 2021, 2022, it's just constant, but it's space. And if it's not space for adults, it's space for kids. Oh, they love to target the kids with the space grab, don't they?
Yeah, in all the countries in the world, I mean, they're all investing in these like space programs, and they're not even trying that hard. I mean, the stuff that they show.
They don't have to try hard, do they? They don't have to. I mean, look how obedient the human race has shown themselves to be. Look how brainwashed and gullible they've shown themselves to be. They don't have to try hard at all. They can give you a cartoon and people will buy it. You know, I know a lot of truthers talk about the upcoming alien invasion and how they're going to do it with Project Bluebeam. No, they don't have to do it with any kind of Project Bluebeam. They just have to show it on television and people will buy. They could probably just take a clip out of Independence Day, put it on the news, and people will buy it. So sad.
Well, I've been noticing a lot of stories on my Instagram feed, and people are constantly posting like these fake alien invasion videos, and they look real. They look really real. But yeah, I mean, they're just feeding, slow dripping. They're
priming. They're just priming the public for it. Wasn't there was a recent Fox news piece, there was some aircraft or some unidentified flying objects that surrounded a military vessel or something like that. I mean, there's your priming for it. It's in the news now. There's going to be disclosure, all the semi-woke, the diet woke, alien disclosure. It's all. I mean, look at what Werner von Braun said on his deathbed to his assistant. He said, "Remember, the last card will be the alien invasion, and it's all fake." So there's a deathbed confession for you right there.
So this whole flat earth stuff, I mean, you know, it was a tough pill to swallow for me. What was your, like, how did it bring you to this side? Like, did you resist it?
I resisted it for about 6 months because it was the most, because I'm 49 now and I started looking at it when I was about sort of 45, 46. So I'd already had so much programming under my belt. I'd already been subjected to just the globe propaganda for 45 years. So it was very difficult for me to shake that off. So I resisted it for 6 months. And after 6 months, I was like, okay, well, it's not a ball. It's definitely not a ball. And I just kept on resisting it. But there was something about the information that was addictive because I knew there was truth there. I knew I'd been lied to my entire life because I'd uncovered things like 9/11 and fluoridation and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. And so I knew that. So there was just something that just pulled me in and kept me addicted to it. So I just kept it. It was about a year that I kept on continuously looking into it for a good few hours every single day for about a year before I had the confidence to put it into music because I was resisting it for so long. No way, it can't be. And then, yeah, like I say, it was about a year of looking at that information and then finally getting on board with it after kicking and screaming for about a year. And I thought, I've got to write about this because that's all I can do. You know, I have to use what I'm capable of doing, my skill set, which is music. So that was the only way I could tell my fellow Americans, you know. So yeah, it was. I did resist it for quite a while, and I don't think, you know, anybody that you show a 2-hour documentary to and they get it straight away, I don't think they're being genuine. Really, I think there's an awful lot of work. Well, for me personally, I had to put an awful lot of work into it and an awful lot of hours looking at the stuff because, my cognitive dissonance was way out there,
Yeah. I think I was in college when I started to like really open my eyes, and, I was working from home. So I was watching a lot of documentaries, and, I went back to college to get my degree in journalism. And my professor, she asked me, so what are your interests? And I'm like, well, I don't want to write for NASCAR for the rest of my life. And I want to have a, wide variety of skills so I can write for newspapers or, write for a news organization. And just, I wanted to have a broader talent in writing. So I told her, I'm like, I do love space. I love NASA, and I love all the space stuff. And I actually went to a lecture at USC. I think it was like 2008, 2009. And I listened to this guy talk about the Hubble telescope for about 30 minutes. And then the rest of it was all questions. And I left the lecture thinking I didn't learn anything. It was just all like, oh yeah, we're going to go back to the moon in 10 years. This was 2008 or 2009. So obviously we never went back to the moon. We just went straight to Mars. So I don't know. It's always been in the back of my mind, after seeing like documentaries and footage of the moon landing, I was like, this looks like so fake. And, there was lectures, defending how the light on the moon, it's like, it's so bright that they have to change the exposure rate, so you can't see the stars out there.
There's a lot of damage control, isn't there? There's a lot of people behind the scenes pulling the strings, making sure that this doesn't get out, because the moon landing is the big one, because once you see that, then it opens your eyes to so many other things. Like when you see the flat earth, it opens your eyes to so many other things. So they're doing everything they can to damage control this. So but you saw it, thank God. That's where I am now. Thank God I can see this, as disastrous as it is and sad and dark. At least I can see it now, and it's laughable to me now, which is why I make fun of it in my videos, because what's the other option? It's getting really depressed that your whole life has been a lie, that the whole world is a lie. That's not on the table for me. I'm at the point now where I can laugh at it, and I'm in a place of peace now, no fear, just joy. I kind of take it as a challenge, really, all of this stuff, because the more crap that happens to me in this world, then the more material I have for music, and the more self-sufficient I become. I react to it. I channel that negativity, and I put it. That 2020 was my best year. Yeah, I've got solar panels on my roof now, and I'm growing food in my garden. I've never been happier. So it's how you take this information. You can be really dark, and you can dwell on it. And don't get me wrong, there were some dark times, but now thankfully there's light at the end of the tunnel. I'm at the outside the other end now, having fun with it. But it's dark stuff. I
mean, that's smart. You got yourself, a garden, and you have the solar panels, because you just don't know when they're just going to turn everything off. And then next thing you know, we're standing in bread lines,
Yeah, and I'll be there in my garden with my guitar singing "I Told You So."
So talk about the music. I mean, have you been doing music a long time? And I mean, obviously you're very talented. You do all your own instruments, right?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I started playing the piano when I was about 4 years old. I come from a musical family.
Wow.
My father and his brothers were in a band, and they were doing the working men's clubs and that kind of thing. And there was always a piano in the house and an organ. So I started tinkling on the ivories at a very early age. I'm not the best pianist in the world. I play a bit of piano. And I picked up the guitar when I was about 20. So I play a bit of guitar. I wouldn't call myself a guitarist. I play a bit of bass. I do a bit of singing and harmony and production, but I wouldn't call myself a singer or a producer. I just have a go at all of these things. And I've been, I've done the gig circuit. So I did my apprenticeship in the pubs and the clubs, playing to, 10 people, and 2 of them were maybe listening. The other 8 were watching the football game behind me on the television screen. And so I've done all of that, playing in drunken bars and that. And now I just sort of get my kicks from being in my own little space with no audience. I can reach way more people doing it this way, from the privacy of my own home. I've reached, a good few million people with this music. I could never do that if I was going around the pubs or doing gigs. People are always asking me, when are you going to do a gig here? I was like, no, it's too stressful. I can do much better things from the privacy of my own home, which I much prefer. But Yeah, music pretty much has been my whole life. I was a DJ as well, a professional DJ. I was a karaoke compere. I, did acoustic gigs in pubs. I've been in bands, that sort of stuff. So I reckon maybe if you held me upside down and shook me, like musical notes might fall out of my pockets, even though I don't read a word of music. So there's that as well. I'm a completely by ear. I play by ear, so I don't read any music. So if you put a sheet of music in front of me, it would look like Japanese. So I just listen to stuff, and I've got a bit of a sense of humor, and of course I've got this new information about all of these lies, and I can put it into music. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Was it a tough transition? Did you have a lot of like people who rejected the information, or did you wake up a few people and that made it worth it for you?
Well, I mean, I'm not massively close to my family, so it's not like, they were all calling me crazy. And of course I have, I can always just defend myself by saying, oh, it's just comedy what I'm doing. It's just comedy. You don't have to take it for fact. Just satire. Right. I'm just trying to open a few people's minds. So they go, oh, okay. My family will never get the music, or they will never get it on that level. So it's not like they're all like, Alex has lost his mind. They don't care. They just let me do my thing. I've always been the black sheep of the family. So I've never really got any resistance. In fact, I've got quite the opposite. What I now have in my life is I've attracted like-minded people, and I've connected through my music. I've had people sending me messages here in Spain. A guy a couple of weeks ago who follows me on Instagram happens to live 10 minutes away from me. I'm like, dude, I can't believe you follow me on Instagram, and he lives 10 minutes from me, and I'm just attracting more like-minded people through the music that I'm doing. So I've had obviously you're going to get the odd idiot on my channel that calls me a complete dickhead and whatever, but statistically 96% of the people on my channel have given me a thumbs up statistically, which is great because they get it, but so no, I've not had any kickback, and it wouldn't bother me. It just, people are on their own journey. I'm happy to be on mine. That's it.
Yeah. When I had David Weiss on the show, I thought there was going to be a lot more kickback than there was. And then like majority of all the comments were just positive. So, I mean, this whole community is so supportive, and they follow you around and they support you. They give you positive compliments. They even will tell you, well, like, you should have asked this, you should have asked that. I'm like, oh, I guess I could have, but it's hard to remember everything.
As soon as somebody tells me they're a flat earther, they're an instant friend of mine, because I know where they're coming from in their mind. They know we're a created realm. They know there's a creator. They behave differently. They have much more respect for one another. I know I do. And I put that in one of my songs, that since I became, I used to be an atheist and now I'm a creationist, all because of this information that I've been looking at. And it's made me a much better person. I put that in the lyrics in one of my songs. So, I thought I've lost my train of thought there, but just the flat earth community is just, there is some division in the community, of course, but we can all agree on one thing, that we're not living on this ridiculous pseudo-scientific fairy tale.
Right. Yeah. I have noticed there are different factions, and the Flat Earth Society is like a total shill controlled opposition. So anybody who's interested in looking up flat earth, they go to the Google and that's the first thing they come up with. And so it's all nonsense. We're not floating in space. We're not surrounded by planet balls. It's all ridiculous. So when my brother had showed me a photo of Earth in the shape of a disc floating in space, and then he's like, hey, check this out. And I'm like, oh, what is this garbage? Get that away from me.
Earther believes that. David Weiss says this. David Weiss starts every interview he does with, no flat earther believes this, and behind him, like a flat plane with planets all around it. No flat earther believes that. It's the disinformation campaign is incredible, and the censorship on YouTube, it should be a red flag alone. I don't know if you remember that video where one of the CEOs is talking in a public meeting saying, yes, we're going to censor flat earth, So, it's right there from the horse's mouth. So that should raise alarm bells for a lot of people, the fact that they're censoring this information.
Right. And, the fact that people will ask, well, why would they lie about this? And it's like, well, think about how much money is involved in the space program around the world. It's like $4 trillion. And right before Trump left office, he signed that $642 billion Space Force bill, which Biden hasn't gotten rid of. So he's all for it, obviously.
Every president's all for it, always for it, always increasing the budget. We need to explore more, kicking that can down the road. It's a business. It's a huge business.
Right.
Ultimately, it's a cult, really, is what we're talking about.
Yeah. And so, the education system is behind it. because they get more people who want to become astronauts, and so everybody wins by supporting this. And so it's worth to spend a few $1 million in these disinformation campaigns. Let's pay some bloggers, some YouTubers to be a part of the whole disinformation campaign. And so they're prioritized. So if you look up Flat Earth on YouTube, they're the first ones in line, Simon Dan and all those guys. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we're up against. I mean, the censorship on YouTube alone. I mean, and that's why a lot of people are now flocking to places like BitChute and Odyssey and Rockfin, these censorship-free platforms, which I'm all for. But I have to be incredibly careful with the music that I put out now as well. So I have to be a lot more clever with my lyrics. If I was to put the words Maxine and unsafe in a lyric, then that's going to get flagged straight away, and that's going to get taken down. I mean, I really want to make a song about vaccines, but it's a very, 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 very tricky subject. I'll have to call it something like Bob got the shot, or something like Bob got shot, or something. I don't know, but I'd have to be really clever. If I want to keep my YouTube audience, then I'll have to be really clever with the stuff. But I don't really want to sort of, buckle under these sort of censorship. I should really sort of leave YouTube and just be able to say what I want on Rockfin. But I think I'll keep YouTube now as a, if I do go over to Rockfin or wherever I go, then I can use that to tell people where I'm ultimately going to end up, because I can't continue on YouTube doing this kind of conscious music. YouTube does not want conscious music.
Well, YouTube is definitely a necessary platform, because I mean, that's how I discovered all the information. And if everything was removed and we were only in these tight communities where everybody was just, virtue signaling to each other, then we're not going to be able to spread the message, and no one's going to be woken up at all, which is why I use my platform to hopefully, I mean, even if I just wake up one person, it's worth it. And, this past year, my wife has given out information, I've given out information to people who are possibly open to the topic. And once they look into it, they're like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Yeah. YouTube has its uses. There's some great kitten videos on YouTube. I mean, it's not like it used to be, is it? I mean, 2016, you could find anything on YouTube. And that's the reason why I woke up, was because of YouTube, because a guy was showing me some 9/11 stuff, because I'd looked at that 9/11 stuff. It offered me another 9/11 video. Then it offered me Alex Jones. Then it offered me David Icke. And then all of this other. Then that's how I got into this stuff. And now you never find anything like that now.
Oh, no.
YouTube is had its day in the sun as far as the truth of community is concerned, and we'll see where it goes, and we'll see where I end up. But if YouTube stops for me, the music will continue just somewhere else.
Yeah, I've always been open-minded. I listen to a lot of talk shows and radio talk shows, and I never really I have never turned my nose up to anything until recent. Now it's just, everything is so controlled that everyone is afraid to really say what's on their mind. Like Hollywood. I mean, if you dare speak against the narrative, I mean, you're out of a job. Same with journalists. Like, you can't say anything that's against their narrative. Otherwise, you will never work in media ever again.
The same with pilots, right? They had that KLM pilot that came out and was speaking about, she got grounded the next day for talking about flat Earth. Yeah. So you got to have some balls.
Yeah. I mean, there's really no safe space until you completely tear yourself away from it, and you have to have a whole different occupation, Yeah,
it's tough for a lot of people. It really is tough for a lot of people, but I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah. So let's talk about your music. And you can't, the first song that I discovered, you did NASA's Faking Everything. That was like one of your big hits. What inspired you to make that particular song? Can you remember?
I like the way you said that, one of my big hits. I like that. It makes me sound like a credible artist. One of your big hits. It was the first song that I made, and it was kind of inspired. When I first started learning this stuff, the first thing I did was talk to my buddy about it. And he was the only buddy I had at the time in Spain. As I'd only just got here, and he was my chiropractor, and we'd had conversations about conspiracies before, and I was talking to him about, I said, dude, you got to look at this thing, this flat earth. I couldn't articulate it. I was so sort of confused about it and excited at the same time, and I was just trying to implore him, you've got to look at it, you've got to look at it. And I must have come across like a complete crazy lunatic. Thankfully, he was open-minded enough to look at it, and he's now a flat earther. So how about that? So having that conversation in my mind, I then wrote a poem in my phone, and it started. I met a man the other day who thought the earth was flat. So the song's coming from his perspective. Like, this man comes up to me and said, "Yeah, I think the earth is flat." Blah, blah. So the song was written from his perspective, and the song continues. I met a man the other day who thought the earth was flat. I said, "Man, you must be crazy. Where the hell's your tinfoil hat?" But he spoke with such conviction, and he believed the words he spoke, and something deep inside me knew this couldn't be a joke. And it goes on and on about the whole story. Eventually, the guy has a whole Flat Earth Awakening. So the Flat Earth Awakening song, really. And it was just a poem in my phone. And when I got into the studio, I thought, right, how am I going to do this? I didn't want to do it serious because I'm not really a serious guy. Yeah. So I picked up the guitar and tried a couple of voices, and I was always able to do a sort of American country voice like that. I was always able to do that. So when I picked up the guitar, that was the voice that kind of...
Well, I met a man the other day who thought the earth was flat. I said, "Man, you must be crazy."
It just, when I did that, it's like, that's actually quite funny. I'm not taking myself too seriously. It works as a country song because the country genre is often used to tell a story, and this is what I was trying to do, tell a story. That voice came out and it worked, so I recorded it and showed it to my buddy, the chiropractor, and he went, "Dude, that's amazing. I can't wait for that to go viral." I said, "Don't be stupid. No one's going to see it." And then
100,000 views later.
Yeah, about a month later, like, he texted me and said, "Have you seen all the comments on your video?" No. So I looked, and there was all the prominent flat earthers were commenting saying this is great. And so that prompted me to do another song. I said, right, let's do another one. Let's do one about the ISS. And so I started learning a bit more about that and put that into, before I know it, I had 2 songs doing this kind of voice like that. And then 3 songs, and it just became an album. And the first song was called Flat Earth Man. It was, it was just called Flat Earth Man. And mistakenly, I think David Weiss on the Flat Earth podcast said, "Have you heard that song by the Flat Earth Man?" And he thought it was the artist, the Flat Earth Man, but the song was called the Flat Earth Man. So the name kind of stuck. So the internet gave me, it wasn't a name that I gave myself. It was the name the internet gave. Oh, that's that Flat Earth Man guy. So that was sort of, I don't know, I guess like an organic creation. But before I knew it, I was making a whole album of NASA bashing songs, and then I went to Denver and performed them all on stage in front of 600 flat earthers, which was nice. Which was quite a ride, I can tell you. That I did feel famous then, because I couldn't walk down the corridor without somebody going, "Flat Earth Man, can I have a photo?" So yeah, it's been quite a ride. It's it's great.
Yeah, it's too bad that the lockdowns. Are you able to fly across the pond?
Yeah, you are, but you have to have a PCR test, or you have to have an antigen test.
Oh, okay.
Which I absolutely. I mean, I don't travel anyway. I mean, I'm perfectly happy where I am. So yeah. But it is. We've got our mother-in-law and my mother-in-law and father-in-law coming over in a couple of days, and they'll have to take a test before they get over here, and they'll have to take a test before they leave, and then they'll have to quarantine when they get back to the UK, to prison UK. So yeah, while that stuff's going on, I will never go and set foot in an airport. I will never put a mask on my face, so I'm certainly not going to set foot in an airport.
Yeah, we ended up driving to Ohio, which is about 1,000 miles. We went to a wedding, but I wasn't going to put myself on a plane and have to get one of those tests. So we was like, well, we'll just drive wherever we go. If we can't drive, we're not going to go.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. There's no way that the government's going to be sticking ethylene oxide into my blood-brain barrier. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look up all the studies, that stuff is no bueno for you. And carcinogens.
But people can't go there in their mind. They genuinely think the government cares about their health. That's where we are.
Yeah,
shocking.
Wow. So you were in the process of releasing another album, and is it more like, because I heard
I'm not. I've not got plans for another album. What I intend to do now, like when I get the time, because my music takes an incredible amount of time, and the videos certainly take an awful lot of time, but probably good 2 to 3 months to make 1 5-minute music video. So it's a hell of a lot of work. So if I've got an album in mind, I have to really take a deep breath, because I really know how much work it's going to be. And I know I'm going to be in the studio for probably a year doing that, which I'm not prepared to do anymore, to be quite honest with you. I want to be outside in my garden and learning a bit more self-sufficiency. And I want to step away from the studio a little bit, step away from my monitor. I don't think it's healthy to be in front of a monitor for 8 hours a day. So what I'm doing now is I'm just, when I get an idea, I'll put a single together and release a single. When I've got enough singles, I'll put them on one album as a singles album, rather than, you know, stressing myself out over another album release. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of stress, and very little revenue for it, I can tell you that. So, so there's that. You will never get rich being a flat earther.
No. I mean, they'll just demonetize you and, you know, get you for something. But you've put in a lot of work in those videos. I mean, the CGI and the green screens, you hanging off of whatever you're hanging off. I mean, you look like you put a lot of work into those videos, which is awesome. It
was a lot of work and a lot of sleepless nights, because when I do a project, I get obsessed with it. It's a lot of creative people are just so obsessed with what they do, and I'm no different. And I just completely block out everybody else around me, and I'm just like so focused on doing this project or this song that I lose sleep. I'll be lying there in bed at night thinking, right, what am I going to do for the next scene? Right, and I'm just thinking it over, and it's very stressful because I'm not getting enough sleep. I forget to eat, so they're a hell of a lot of work, but the fun part for me is when I look back on the video and it's a completed project. That's when I feel my most proud and my most happy. You know, I wouldn't put it out if I wasn't utterly in love with it myself. You know, I have to be excited about my own work. But yeah, there's a lot of work, a lot of green screen work. There's a lot of stuff that ends up on the cutting room floor that you never see. A lot of mistakes, and but you know, I've got a green screen at the back of the room here. I just pull that down, and you know, and I don't have a budget of $60 million a day, and I can create stuff that is on par with NASA's, if not better. Yeah, I've caught so many mistakes by NASA, and it's like, you know, they have all this money, they have all this like production equipment, and they can't get it right. I mean, they should have every detail covered. You know, you'd think so, but part of me often wonders if they're putting these mistakes in as little Easter eggs for the woke crowd and almost rubbing it in our faces, you know, hidden in plain sight. So I don't know if that's a part of it, or whether they are genuinely that clumsy and stupid. Maybe it is that. I mean, you've heard Don Pettit speak in an interview, right? You've seen how gormless and dumb that man is. So, you know, maybe that's a part. Maybe they are just genuinely making mistakes because they're just, you know, they go live a lot as well. They do live broadcast to children, and that's when the mistakes happen, when they go live. So I don't know. Are they Easter eggs, or are they just that stupid?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot of arrogance, and they just, you know, it's like, prove it. And then that's their attitude. It's like, well, there's, you know, 3 billion people.
We have all of these satellites, we have Hubble, we have all of these images, we have all of the scientists. You're too stupid if you don't get it. You're a crazy tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist, blah, 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 blah. It's sad. Because
they know they have people out there that'll defend it and just ignore what you're trying to say, and they'll focus on gravity, or they'll focus on some math formula. And
sounds very much like a cult to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So talk about you release some music that has the 432 hertz, and how did you know, what made you decide to release that kind of music?
I started that album in 2013, and
oh wow,
so quite a long time ago, and it remained unfinished on my hard drive for many years. And it remained unfinished because I was making it for an alternative therapy kind of it was a woman who was opening an alternative practice, like homeopathic stuff and alternative healing. And I got talking to her, and she was talking about the 432 hertz and thing, and I don't think I'd ever heard of it then, so I was looking at it, and it was fascinating. And I made the album, and I presented it to her, and she said, I don't like it.
Really?
And it really kicked me in the balls. I was like, oh, it's shit then. Obviously my album's shit. And it just stayed on my hard drive for so many years, like just unfinished as this low. This is not good enough to put out there. And then I revisited the subject a couple of years ago, and I'm like, there's something to this. And I started following a few people that were talking about it, and the solfeggio healing tones and all this, the change of music from 432 hertz to 440, and how it was funded by the Rockefellers and all of this kind of stuff. And it was just, I thought it was very, very fascinating. So I revisited the album and finished it and put it out there, not really thinking too much of it. And I embedded the so-called solfeggio healing tones and put it out there really as a scientific experiment is what it was, because it sold, I don't know how many copies, maybe 1,000 copies it sold. Not a great deal by any measure, but the feedback that I got was pretty incredible. I was getting reports of people that are bursting into tears listening to certain tracks on the album, and people's anxiety just oozing from them. And when they said no other, you could say it's placebo or whatever, but when they were saying to me that no other music would do this, but yours did, and my pets are calm when your music is on, when I put other music on, they're running all over the place. The same with children. One guy even reported to me that his plants were growing exponentially because he was playing them the music, and I get feedback off this time and time and time again. So I think there's something to it. I can't prove that 432 hertz and these solfeggio healing frequencies are healing you. I can't really prove that. Cymatics is probably a bit of a clue there. But my scientific experiment of making an album, embedding these healing frequencies, is putting that out there and engaging the feedback. And the feedback leads me to believe there's something to it. And I'm certainly convinced that the 440 hertz would be a negative effect on the body, because if the Rockefellers are involved in that stuff and they're promoting it and they're financing it, then I'm sorry, that waves a lot of red flags for me. So I want to make a documentary on it and get all the information and present it, but of course that's another huge project. But but it was a success. It was more successful than the Flat Earth Man album. I don't know why that is, but I don't know. All I can tell you is I made the album, people love it, and people are reporting positive effects from listening to it. Apart from that, I can't really say much more. I know there's been some studies and some scientific studies done on it, and that's what I wanted to get together, that information, and put it into a presentation of some kind. But the naysayers will just say it's some kind of placebo, and we had all these different tuning frequencies of 432, and there's a lot of, with all truth, there's a lot of misinformation out there. So when you start Googling solfeggio healing frequencies, there are different kinds of healing frequencies. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. So there's definitely a there if they're putting out this misinformation saying 528 hertz is a DNA repairing healing frequency. Well, no, it's not. It's not. 512, in my opinion, is the more beneficial frequency. So when you start looking at this stuff, you start finding chills, misinformation, people plugging the wrong kind of frequencies. So there's definitely a there. All I can tell you is what I've done, which is put an album out and gauge the feedback. And I think people should definitely put it on the table and look into that area, because it's opened my eyes. I won't make music in 440 anymore, so I'm that convinced of it. If I'm driving in my car, I won't listen to a CD unless it's in 440 hertz, unless it's in 432 hertz. So there's that. So I'm convinced. When I play music in my studio in 432, I get incredible goosebumps from the music that's coming out of the speakers. I never used to get that before. Some people will say, well, maybe I don't know, maybe you love your own music too much, or you're too arrogant, or whatever. But I've noticed a difference in the way it feels. So beyond that, can't really say anymore. But there is a there. That's all. I would encourage people to look and to make up their own mind, of course.
Yeah, I've listened to some music that claim like they have these healing powers, and like, oh, this is supposed to help you sleep and have better dreams. And I don't think it made any difference to me. However, listening to your music, because I've never heard anybody play a lead guitar on a 432 track
it doesn't
before.
Happen. That's exactly why I did it, because there was no music out there. There was binaural music and healing music and all that kind of solfeggio healing tone, but no one had ever put it to structured music with an intro, a chorus, a bridge, and really nice sort of Eric Clapton-y, Floyd-like sort of guitar over the top. No one had ever done that. So
it's definitely relaxing. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're aware of the name Douglas Falk. He wrote a book called Voyage. He's a flat earther. He wrote a book called Voyage. It's a flat earth book. And he recently gifted the book to me, and he started asking me about this 432 hertz stuff. And he said, I've been suffering with some anxiety and that recently. He said, is there anything to this 432 hertz? I said, well, have a listen to my album. Let me know what you think. And he'd already been listening to some healing music, but he'd been listening to the 528 hertz, which is plugged all through YouTube as the healing frequency. He'd been listening to that. He said, it made absolutely no difference. I said, try my album and see what you think. He listened to my album 3 times in a row, and he came back and said, dude, that really had an effect on me. So, there's that as well, so just saying.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, all these albums and music that's been released by mainstream, and, is there a way to like break down and find out if that 440 hertz is in there?
Yeah, it's difficult to explain. All music is tuned to 440 hertz. What that means is the A above middle C is tuned to a specific frequency, then all of the other keys on that piano follow suit. So your bass note, your A above middle C, once you determine that keynote frequency, all the other frequencies fall into place. So your keynote frequency used to be 432 and some other frequencies as well, but they decided on a 440 back in, I don't know, maybe the 1950s. That was when the international standard was adopted. So
that explains the hypnotism.
Well, yeah. So basically, all of our music is tuned to 400. For every time you watch a documentary and you listen to the music, you listen to the score. Every time you're listening to the radio, every time you listen to a podcast, and there's music at the beginning, always in 440 hertz.
Wow.
So
very interesting.
I mean, at the end of the day, if we are to believe that everything is made up of sound and frequency, which I believe it to be, biblically, God spoke creation into existence. In the beginning, there was word. If everything is frequency and sound, then if you're a psychopathic elitist that wants to control and make a discordant humanity, what will be the first thing that you attack? Sound and vibration. Okay. Yeah. So, when you start looking down these rabbit holes, you start to create a bigger picture of what's actually going on with the manipulation of the frequency and the bastardization of it as well, which is another story. I mean, music in general is just basically satanic when you look at what's coming out of the music industry. It's no longer higher-minded intellectual music. It's basically, Cardi B talking about a wet ass pussy and things like that. That's what we're subjected to on MTV now. That's where we are now.
Yeah.
There's no more higher-minded intelligent music anymore. So the whole music industry has been utterly bastardized, let alone the frequency that they're tuning it to.
Yeah, I literally can't watch anything, listen to anything. Once in a while I hear a song that's kind of okay, but because I've always promoted independent music, and it's not tainted yet. It's still coming from the artist's integrity, and then once they get a record deal, the music starts to slowly change, and then it becomes, I can't listen to it anymore, Yeah. So.
No, I haven't listened to popular music I couldn't tell you, because it's all utterly manipulated. There's so much mind control in music. There's a couple of books. Mark Devlin speaks about this, actually. He's got a couple of books out called Musical Truth 1 and Musical Truth 2. Grab yourself a copy. Then that'll explain what's going on in the music industry. It's not there for your benefit, I can tell you that.
Right. Man, so much to think about.
Yeah, it's yeah, I know, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I would rather be where I am, doing the shadow work, looking at the dark stuff and understanding it so I can avoid it. So I can, if there's a bomb in the road, you're going to want to know about it, aren't you, at the end of the day? So I'm glad that I'm, on this journey. I would much rather be where I am, dealing with the darkness than not knowing there's any darkness at all. Yeah.
Well, speaking of bifrequencies, I mean, it makes a lot of sense why they wanted us to be distant 6 feet apart, because we're separated, that natural frequency that we have, that we feel from the next person, because we feed off each other's energy, just like plants and trees.
Completely. And you're talking about the auric field there, the aura. And when you start saying that, people start thinking, oh, that's new age woo woo. But it's not. It's very, 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 very real. You can feel, like, as you say, you can feel it. You can, when you walk into a room, just by somebody's expression, you can feel their energy. So yeah, it's the separation of mankind. It's another divide and conquer, isn't it? The 6 feet apart. There's a lot of sixes in this COVID thing, I've noticed.
Well, sixes are a lot of the distances and speeds that they calculate for space. I mean, the six is everywhere.
Oh yeah, it's in the tilt, it's in the curvature calculator, it's in the speeds. It's oh yeah, there's a lot of 666. It's just, I'm sure it's just a coincidence. Though I'm positive.
Could be.
Yeah.
You never know. But until they admit it, which they never will. I mean, we have to speculate.
Yeah, in fact, there's a 666 in the 432. The change of 432 hertz to 440 hertz. There's even a 666 there. That's a difference of 8 hertz. 432 to 440 is a difference of 8 hertz. If you take the 8 hertz and divide it by the 12 notes in an octave, you get 0.666. Isn't that amazing? Just a coincidence.
Could be. You just never know. I mean, I feel like I'm a baby truther, still, and I'm learning.
We're all baby truthers, bro. We're all baby truthers. Yeah, I mean, no, I'm not an expert. I'm definitely not an expert. As I said to you privately in an email, I try to learn enough about a particular conspiracy just to get the bullet points, enough information for me to put it into music. So then somebody else can then take the bullet points and decide what to do with that information. I don't just stick on flat Earth. And although I'm very fond of the flat Earth community and the conspiracy, there are others out there that I still want to tackle. But yes, it's an interesting one.
So who's your favorite show out there? I mean, who do you regularly watch or listen to?
I'm very fond of Globebusters and the Baby Truther show. I like that. Alex Stein, I think he cracks me up. He looks like a baby as well. And it amazes me when you get these younger truthers coming through that have all of this knowledge, and it amazes me, like people like Austin Whitsitt as well. It amazes me how that knowledge can be in somebody so young. I'm almost jealous of it, like, because I didn't start waking up till I was 40, and he's in his 20s, and he's like being able to articulate all this information. So he's pretty amazing.
Austin.
Crow 777, love a bit of Crow 777. I have my staples that I go to. Jason Lindgren as well. I was listening to The Secret of Saturn the other day, and they were talking about the moon hoax. There was Jason Crow and Wayne McCroy and the great Baldini on there, and I just love to sit and just listen to those guys just talk about all this nonsense. So I have my go-tos, but yeah, I like the Tartaria thing. I like the mud flood thing. That's very, very interesting. Maybe there'll be a song there one day. I mean, there's a song in everything, let's be honest, because everything's a lie. So there'll probably be a lot more music coming from me in the future, but I won't be as prolific as I have been because it's just too much hard work, man. But I'm still in the conspiracy world. I'm still listening to it, or I want to learn. I want to learn what I am, who I am, why I am, and all of these big questions that we think we don't have answers for, but I think we do. But you just have to look for them,
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Tartaria, and that is another rabbit hole that I recently uncovered, and it is so deep. Like the historic lies is just incredible.
It's amazing, isn't it?
And that's almost as big of a conspiracy as flat Earth, as
It's up
crazy.
there, but I don't think you might not be able to see that kind of deception unless you're a flat earther. Like I say, flat Earth is the skeleton key that unlocks things like the COVID hoax and Tartaria and all of that sort of thing. I mean, you try and present a normie with the Tartaria evidence. I don't know if they can go there, but looking at the architecture, I mean, it's got the word tech right in the word. We're looking at cathedrals that are cathodes and, harnessing energy out of the ether and, powering cities with this stuff. And then you get into star forts and how it's all one big connected grid. It blows my mind, the advancedness of this civilization and the technology. And we're only talking a couple of 100 years ago?
Yeah, if that.
Yeah.
And there was this massive reset. I was watching a video by, I think it was Michelle Gibson, and she was going through like the historic timeline from like the 1700s up until like the mid 1940s. And she was just pointing out all these anomalies and how things just don't really add up. And there's overlapping timelines, and somewhere down the line, there's a gap. And there was this massive depopulation. I mean, her theory is like the catacombs we were running out of grave space. So they just threw everybody in there. It's just insanity. And there's too much evidence to support this theory. So it's not like, space. We can only go up 120,000 feet, or 73 miles, and we hit a barrier, and then but with this whole Tartaria thing, I mean, there's all these ancient buildings that have been here for hundreds and hundreds of years, and they're all over the world. So, I mean, there had to have been one world government at one point, and all these places used to be energy centers.
Yeah, I think there was one big giant civilization, but it was a positive one. That's the difference, and there's evidence of a reset without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, just photograph after photograph of empty cities. What happened to these people? Why were there orphans, like hundreds of thousands of orphans? What was going on? I mean, everything's alive. I mean, who is it that said? It was William Casey, I think, the ex-CIA director, whether he said this or not, but I'm sure he did. He said, we will know our disinformation campaign is complete when everything the American public believes is false. I think we're there. I think we're definitely there because nobody knows anything.
I mean, how could we have built all these structures with horse and buggies and slaves? It's impossible.
Absolutely impossible.
There is no way to move these massive stones. And then we're expected to believe all these fairs were made out of plaster and wood. Like, that's ridiculous.
And then they burn it down afterwards. They just erected it for the World's Fairs and then burn it. Come on, none of it makes any sense. The vastness of these buildings, these cathedrals, you can see they're using cymatics. They're using sound resonance in the patterns. They don't do that for decorative purposes. It's all the knowledge that they had. It's just mind blowing. I wish I could understand it, but they were clearly using resonance and sound for beneficial uses. It seems, an organ in a cathedral would probably heal your organs, and you look at the organs, they're huge, great things. Imagine the sound coming out of those things, and that cathedral resonating at, I don't know, maybe 432 hertz, at that kind of amplitude. And I don't know, your mind sort of wanders off into these places when you start to realize the capability of these buildings. It's just amazing. And for all of these years, I thought they were places of worship.
No, I think it's just a cover. I mean, they were just giant energy centers. And at one point, whenever and here's my theory, and it can't be really substantiated, but I think there were those engines that were energy collectors. All they had to do was just change the frequency, which created the mud floods. Because
that's not a bad theory. That's not a bad theory at all, man. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, because they all had these areas for the magnetrons, right? We find them in microwaves. They generate some kind of power. So yeah, I mean, all you have to do is not change the technology. You have to change the intent behind the technology. So
just frequency.
That's good. Yeah, absolutely. Everything is frequency. Yeah. I mean, because mud floods come from. I don't know much about it, but I know that when you change the frequency, then you can get liquefaction, right? Which turns solid stuff into liquid. Mm-hmm. So that would be frequency. That speaks frequency to me all over. So yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I mean, there's been mud floods as recent as like 2 years ago in Indonesia. So it's not like it's unheard of and it can't happen in today's climate.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we also have the Earth's frequency as well, the Schumann resonance, right? That's 7.93 hertz or whatever. It's just so low, the human ear can't even hear it, but it's a frequency.
Right.
And I wonder if that frequency that's pulsating from the Earth is responsible for something like that, or maybe even responsible for the tides. If you look at cymatic patterns in water, that's a frequency that's doing that from underneath. When people fill loudspeakers with water and they put music through, you can see all the wonderful patterns. So I wonder if the Schumann resonance might have something to do with mud flood or tides or anything like that. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, everything's got a frequency. I mean, you can put a spider in a jar, and then you hold up your phone and you just tap the focus, and the spider will jump.
Yeah,
it's just weird. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can't hear or see, but they're there.
Oh yeah, they're there. It's like Bob. That reminds me of that quote from Bob Dylan, when he said when he was talking about selling his soul, and the interviewer said, "Can I ask?" He said, "Who did you sell it to?" He said, "Oh, well, the chief commander in this world and in a world we don't see." Like, so that I got shivers with that. Like, he's talking about that world, that realm that we can't see, but it's there. It's because it's wonderful information.
Walter Cronkite also had said something very similar. And this is a person who we respected and trusted for decades as the honest person of journalism. And I'm like, he's just like all these other elitist Satan worshippers. And I'm like,
Talking head, just a satanic talking head.
yeah.
Yeah, like they
oh
all
my
are.
God.
I mean, they come across as these butter wouldn't melt, wonderful, personality. We have them in the UK. There's a wonderful person that everyone loves. She's a household name. She's beautiful as well. Her name's Holly Willoughby, and she does a daytime show over there. And butter wouldn't melt. She's so lovely. She's just, but on her Instagram, she says pictures of her doing one eye symbolism and taking the vax and all that. The agenda's there. The agenda's there.
You just can't trust anybody anymore.
And that's why they do it. That's why they put these likable personalities in front of us, so we like them, so we trust them. Holly Willoughby, she's getting the vaccine. She wouldn't do, if it was she's smart. She's on TV,
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's all mind control. It's all wizardry coming from the highest of places, and that's how I see it all now. As a big cult, as wizardry. That's what Hollywood is, isn't it? Hollywood is wizardry.
And they call us crazy. I'm sure my audience is just going to tear me apart.
Good. Bring it on.
That means I'm doing something right.
Yeah, it means you're over the mark, right? If you piss people off, you're over the mark, and that's fine. That's if they're not on that journey, then that's fine. You shouldn't not stop talking your truth, should you? Because there's somebody don't agree with it.
Yeah, I think I love music. I'll always love music, but I think I want to venture into something that I have a passion for now, and other people need to find the truth as well. So if I
gives
lose
you a purpose as well when you're just interviewing people and you're doing those closed-minded interviews and you're just I don't know who would want to do that. You've got to have these woke conversations. You've got to make woke music. You've got to do all this woke stuff because it gives you the purpose. I mean, if I was making songs about love and breakups and singing about my car and all that, I mean, what purpose would that have? That's what we get from the music. What purpose would that have? I would have no purpose in life. At least now I can say I've got a purpose. I'm doing it. It's a good thing to do. I like to think that when I leave this realm that I left it in a slightly better condition. I wouldn't be doing that if I was making songs about love and breakups. What contribution would I have made to humanity by doing that? None. So The same thing with you, by having these woke conversations, it might just one phrase, one sentence, one lyric might just trigger a person and get them on their journey. And that's why it's important.
Yeah, I was a little nervous doing, these kind of episodes because I was afraid of the ridicule and the, just losing people. But it's been very receptive, and for the most part, and I've been getting a lot of positive comments, and it's great. So I feel like I'm on the right path, and
totally,
yeah, I just have to keep pushing forward and spreading truth, and
yeah, absolutely. That's what we've all got to do. We've all got to share this information if we can, because this is a war, isn't it? At the end of the day, we are talking silent weapons for quiet wars. At the end of the day, so one of the most powerful things we can do is just express our truth, and the share button is very important as well. We can just do this stuff. Otherwise, what's the point?
And I don't claim to know everything. I mean, I'm definitely in a learning process. I mean, there's so much out there to know, and I just like sharing with people who have. They're very like-minded and have a little bit more knowledge. So it just makes it more interesting, and it feels good, Yeah,
well, you're on the right path. If it feels good, and you feel like you're doing the right thing, you won't ever have to work a day in your life. That's the beautiful thing, You're standing in your truth. You're doing, you got a purpose. It's there's a lot of beauty to be had in this dark world.
Yeah. Well, with that said. It's probably a good place to close the show because I don't think I have any more questions for you. I mean, obviously, neither one of us are like complete experts. I just, you do some great music, and everybody should look you up. And with that said,
on that, let me just tell everybody where they can find me. If you can remember 3 words, Conspiracy Music Guru. If you can remember them 3 words, you'll find me. If you want to find my website, conspiracymusicguru.com. If you want to find me on YouTube, Conspiracy Music Guru. Same with iTunes, Amazon. If you can remember them 3 words, and you'll find some woke music. It might not be for everybody, but it's certainly a good tool to use to send to your friends. Most people won't watch a 2-hour documentary if you send it to them on Flat Earth, but they might watch a 5-minute comedic video from me. It might just get them to think. So it's definitely a good tool for that. So yeah, Conspiracy Music Guru, and that's me.
Yeah, I mean, the imagery in some of your videos are just, they're worth it to watch.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of time and a lot of stress to get that information out there, and I'm glad I did it. And I'll continue doing it for as long as I can. Certainly on YouTube. We'll see what happens in the future. But I don't know how to really do much else other than music. So there'll be more coming from me, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens, you know, when I get a good idea. I mean, the Tartaria and the vaccines is begging for a song, isn't it, really? Let's be honest. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Open up that rabbit hole. Well,
yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was such an honor to have you on as a guest, and we'll catch you hopefully in the near future. Maybe we can cross the pond and meet up together and, say hi.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I mean, there's so much going on in the States, right? There's so many meetups, and all of mine. I know a lot of people over there. Having met them at the Denver conference, and it's such a shame that I'm stuck in Spain because all my friends, all the people that get me happen to live so bloody far away, and it's a pain in the ass, really. And I hate traveling, so I'm afraid you lot are just going to have to come to me.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
All right, no problem. You have a good one.
You too. Ciao.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of KGUP Presents. Be sure to follow Conspiracy Music Guru by following the links in the description. And if you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And if you love this show, you can support us by purchasing a t-shirt, hat, or even a sling bag. And just a reminder that we're running a special on these t-shirts, and they're only $13, so get them before they go away. Just go to www.kgup1065.com/shop or click the link in the description, and be sure to tag us on your social media at KGUPFM so we can repost it. Tune in next time. As our guest, we have Mikey Jayy. He's going to take us deeper in the rabbit hole and reveal some of the world's deepest secrets. Thanks again for watching KGUP. Thanks again for watching KGUP Presents. This is Mikey Jayy. I'm out.
Well, we all believed in that spinning ball. Indoctrination blinded us all. From the very first day that we went to school, they put a globe in your face and that thing looked cool. The teacher explained how it all worked. Of course it sounded so berserk, but who was I to question it? Because I was just a tiny kid. It sounded crazy as could be, but teacher would never lie to me. She was real nice, she didn't know. She too was taught to believe in that globe. I don't blame her, it wasn't her fault. She was only repeating what she'd been taught. I went through life believing that lie. That spinning ball was now in my mind.
Don't let them take your mind.
Don't let them take your mind, man.
Don't let them tell you that you are not divine.
Don't let them do it, man, no.
Take control of your soul.
Take back control. Yeah.
Find the truth. Find it all.
Find it all, man. Yeah.
Don't believe their lies.
Don't believe it, man.
Let them take your mind.
Don't let them take your mind, man. Alright, man, listen up. So I'm hurling through space on a road to nowhere. So I live my life without a care, cause I was taught that there ain't no creator. That's what I was told from my educator. So I live my life so selfishly, there ain't gonna be no hell for me. I'll do what I want with no care for others, with no respect for my brothers. Until one day when I woke up and I drank some truth with my coffee cup. I learned that things ain't what they seem. This so-called reality is just a dream. There's deception everywhere that I look. The news, the TV, and in my school books. And pretty soon I'll realize that everything's just a pack of lies, man.
Don't let them take your mind.
Don't let them take your mind, man.
Don't let them tell you that you are not divine.
Don't let them do it, man. Don't.
Take control of your soul.
Take back control. Yeah.
Find the truth, find it all.
Find it all, man. Yeah.
Don't believe their lies.
Believe it, man.
Let them take your mind.
Let them take your mind, man. Yeah, man. It's deception on a biblical level. It's orchestrated by the devil. Many think that hate don't exist, but that's what he wants. That's one of his tricks. But I found out that dude's real. And I tell you, man, that's a bitter pill. So I questioned everything I was told. I had to question that spinning globe. I had to relearn it all again and get some truth inside this brain. And pretty soon I realized that the globe I was taught was a pack of lies. So I studied as hard as can be. I found the flat earth conspiracy. Man, it hit me like a ton of bricks. The globe I was taught was a devil's trick.
Don't let them take your mind.
Don't let them take your mind, man.
Don't let them tell you that you are not divine.
Don't let them do it, man. Don't.
Take control of your soul.
Take back control. Yeah.
Find the truth, find it all.
Find it all, man. Yeah.
Don't believe their lies.
Believe it, man.
Let them take your mind.
Let them take your mind, man. I started to connect the dots, and I'm telling you, man, there are lots. I soon realized that the earth was flat. It's not a belief, man, it's a fact. And once I found out that reality, well, it did a funny thing to me. For a while there, I was pretty shocked, but now I know that there is a God. And once you get to that point of understanding, and once you know there ain't no moon landing, and once you know that space is fake, you view your life with a different take. It ain't just random chance that we're here. We ain't living on no stupid sphere. It ain't some ridiculous spinning ball. The earth is flat and God created it all.
Don't let them take your mind.
Don't let them take your mind, man.
Don't let them tell you that you are not divine.
Don't let them do it, man. Don't.
Take control of your soul.
Take back control. Yeah.
Find the truth, find it all.
Find it all, man. Yeah.
Don't believe their lies.
Believe it, man.
Let them take your mind.
Let them take your mind, man. Well, now I found out about all these lies. I live a completely different life. I stopped reading the news and turned off the TV. That thing is evil as can be. I started being a nicer guy, and God forbid I tell a lie. I treat people with more respect, and I've got me a wife that I'd never neglect. Yeah, being good's working out for me. Now I ain't blinded and I could see. I know that there is a God above, and if I'm good, then he'll show me love. I try to live life selflessly to be the best that I can be. I treat people how I want to be treated since my indoctrination was defeated. So don't believe in the devil's lies because it's God he wants to hide. That's why they teach that spinning ball, to make you think you ain't special at all. Don't believe what you're being told. Don't believe that you're evolved. It's all an accident and you are too. No, you're someone special and God made you.
Don't let them take your mind.
Don't let them take your mind, man.
Don't let them tell you that you are not divine.
Don't let them do it, no.
Take control of your soul.
You gotta
mine.